Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. State lawmakers this week outlined their priorities for the 2021 session. A lot of them touch on issues connected to the COVID-19 pandemic. But as Mitch Legan reports, House Democrats, like they have for years, are urging Republicans to enact restrictions on redistricting, but it's likely too late.
The General Assembly is back in session, which means Julia Vaughn is back at the State House.
2-3 times a week. I mean, the General Assembly typically works Monday through Thursday, so it's, definitely a full-time job.
Vaughn has spent over 2 decades pushing redistricting reform for the nonprofit Common Cause Indiana, and says it's something people are paying more attention to now than ever before.
The public recognition of the importance of redistricting and how much it impacts elections, that has changed dramatically over the last 10 years.
Republicans were in control when the state completed redistricting back in 2011. By 2012, they secured a supermajority in both the House and Senate and haven't looked back since.
You see that in the fact that they not only have been able to get to the supermajority, but keep it and even expand it in some degree.
After census data are collected each decade, the Constitution requires states draw new electoral boundaries for U.S. congressional and state legislative districts. 14 states give redistricting commissions primary control over drawing lines. In Indiana, the state legislature's in charge.
Indiana is probably has fewest restrictions, either culturally or legally, on what can be done when they're drawing the lines.
Advocates like Vaughn say when Republicans run statewide, support often hovers in the mid-50s, but partisan redistricting, or gerrymandering, allows them to keep the legislature around 70% Republican and avoid any real Democratic priorities.
Given the chance to draw lines, the majority party, when they're in power, like they clearly are in Indiana, will draw the lines to their advantage.
Vaughn isn't the only one who feels partisan gerrymandering allows legislators to pick their constituents, not the other way around. So Common Cause and other voter advocacy groups are creating a multi-partisan Citizens Redistricting Commission for the public to give input and make third-party maps to compare with those drawn by the legislature.
Our idea is to make a public process for redistricting so that the districts are drawn with the public interest driving instead of partisan political interest.
Republican leadership has been hesitant to embrace such a strategy, saying that a truly nonpartisan commission is next to impossible, and they're even less keen on a fully independent redistricting commission.
We're going to make sure that we have lots of public hearings and lots of public input about communities of interest that are across the state so that we are careful about where we draw our lines and not divide those communities of interest.
It's understandable that a politician doesn't want to say, well, I'm just going to give that power up and then hope it comes out okay for me. No, I'm going to stick here with my buddies. We'll draw the lines to make sure it comes out the right way.
But the Supreme Court ruled in 2019 that partisan redistricting is an issue beyond the reach of the courts. When it boils down to it, it's politics.
If it was a Democrat in charge, there might be some different maps gerrymandered for Democrats. But that doesn't make it right to do it. Just because I do something doesn't mean you should do something, especially when it's bad.
As activists like Vaughn advocate for third-party approaches, Senate Minority Leader Greg Taylor will try once again to get a reform bill passed before redistricting occurs at the end of the session, especially since the process will likely be rushed. Census information won't be available until the end of March, just a month before the session ends.
It does not include a commission. It's too late to put that together. Now we're operating from the standpoint of we have to have at least some standards put in place for redistricting.
Restrictions would include things like keeping districts compact and not dividing cities and counties between districts. But Bray doesn't expect them to pass.
There are reasons if we don't do our job well that the court could throw some of those things out. So those requirements are already in place through case law, and we're certainly going to adhere to them.
Advocates hope the Citizens Commission will provide Hoosiers with a look at how a redistricting commission would work before the legislature takes another crack in about the year 2031. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Mitch Legan.